Is it all lost because we've missed a 16,000% jump of this particular project in 462 days? Just a little bit over, well, let's say a year and a half, almost 2 years. No, year and a half, roughly. And that's a really nice game. How could we have caught this? Is all lost? That's some of the things that we're going to cover in this particular video, and share with you some of the little tips that might be useful to you from an entertainment and educational purposes only. Okay, this is not intended to give you any kind of advice. I'll never tell you to get in or get out of a coin. It is totally, or stock, that'll be totally up to you to make that decision with your professional advisor, whoever that might be for you. Okay, you need to be responsible for your own actions and make sure that you take that as such. Now, that being said, let's take a look at some of the things that we're seeing. And if you like this video, if you like what we're sharing, then feel free to click that like button, subscribe, and then we'll give you some more as we go through. So let's take a look here. Why did it jump from 16 to 14 and 9,000? That's because these little tiny little candles that you see are actually pretty huge moves when you look at them a little bit more when they're starting to develop in the beginning. So these price moves, they seem like they're not very big, but from there to there, it's 560%. So that's 5x pretty much, right? So we got this. If we go from that particular high to that particular low, 50% drop on that. Okay, so these are pretty significant jumps, so they're not to be taken lightly. However, that being said, one of the things you want to be aware of when looking at any market whatsoever is how does that tend to behave. Because when I break this particular project down, let's take a look, see what it looks like on the daily. Okay, it's pretty, stays pretty tight within a range for the longest times. So this tends to be a little bit slower, but when it makes those jumps, it makes some really nice jumps. And we want to be able to benefit from those, right? So what can we do with this? Let's look at it on the weekly. Why am I looking at weekly? Because it gives me better, stronger data than if I was looking at smaller time frames. If you're curious what this tool is called TradingView. And we will happily share the link with you. That's our affiliate, of course, that allows us to be able to continue to do these videos and help people out at no cost to them. So you can use the same tools that I'm using here to be able to see the data for yourself. So as we have this here, what are the things that we could have done first to be able to get a sense of where it was going to jump? If let's say we only knew a certain amount. Let's say we only knew, let's see if I can go, I can hit replay here. I can't do a replay on this one. So let's say I only knew up to here or even here because I had missed the first two jumps and I wanted to see how far might this go. So let's delete that for a moment. There's this one of my favorite tools here. It's called a fib. We go from the highest point to the lowest point and jumping to, if let's say that's what I've seen up to here, jumping to a 1618 to a 2.0 to even a 2618 would be reasonable targets when we don't have a history in the past. If we had a history in the past, we would look at that, and that's a whole different module that we'll share. But in this particular scenario, newer coins, newer projects, you don't have a lot to go off of because we don't know, we haven't found a price on it yet. So would it make sense that it would hit those prices? That would have been one way to do it. If you want a simpler way to do it, because we knew some of it, is we could do something like this, where we take one of these, we take the highs, and we go, well, actually, let's do a array because it's easier. So I'll do array. I'll click on here, and I'll click on there, and let's say I happen to have picked it up somewhere in here, somewhere, let's call it somewhere in the middle so we don't get greedy here, and I chose to get out once it jumped above one of these. That's 890% right there. This one is 945%. And down here, you still got 960%. If you got out somewhere in this region, 1400%. Those are really nice gains. And I don't think anybody's going to complain about those, even if you missed the way top. Okay, so once it starts forming more of them, then we start readjusting our charts a little bit more, both from the bottom and from the top, and seeing where might be new targets. Obviously that target's already been hit, but if it was to try to take another one, it might be up here. I'm gonna go ahead and move that line down here as well. Let me copy that and see what we got as a trend here. We've got this particular pattern showing up here, which is a really interesting one, because now if this thing decides to come down into this region even, and decides to bounce off of here, it may try to take another shot up into this region to try to take out that high that it had before, which that in and of itself could be a nice, decent 240% gain. So you don't always necessarily have to catch all the huge ones, because you can still get some really nice gains off of this, but you want to make sure that you have a plan, because if this thing doesn't hold here, now we're talking potential drops that could go into these regions, which is 68% drop, which is no fun, 80% drop, even so much as like 90% if it gets way down here. So you want to make sure that you have a plan in place, but is 240% gain worth a 80% risk? That's up to you on that, but to make that decision, or even lower. So because these prices will, you can see, they can be very spiky on the way up and they can be very spiky on the way down. So if when I take a look at this in the long haul, I'm actually going to leave this video or this picture of this particular plan. If this unfolds the way that it looks like right here, I would be willing to potentially take a look at, see if it's going to reach that high. Don't take that as advice, okay? This is just simply a resource of education. Let me do one other thing here and check. See, this is the 20-day moving average, and it's been holding nice and steady. So if I manage to get in, I might try to protect my my trade somewhere below that initially, even if I didn't get quite all of it, but I would be in profit. Anything in profit, I can't go broke. If I take profit, I cannot go broke. Okay, so this would be a really nice jump. Now if it manages to jump up here from this particular scenario right around in this region, because this is moving up, it's going up in this direction, maybe somewhere around there. If it goes from about there to there, let's measure it straight up, that's 150%. Still a pretty good gain if it chooses to do that. Okay, so those are things that you want to look at when you are doing a trade and you're doing a trading plan. There's nobody that should be doing any kind of trading without a trading plan. Where's my entry? Where's my exit? Where's my stop loss? There's a really neat tool in here that's called long position, that if you were to put that in there, it'll do a lot of the calculations for you. So instead of trying to figure it out yourself, you're like, so let's say I'm willing to take that risk of that high and then go this far below. If it hits below it, then I would be out. Let's say I chose to take that trade, then that's way down here. That's a 40% chance for 156 return. That's a 3.65 risk to reward ratio. If you don't know what that is, basically saying, my chances of, if I was to go into 4 trades and I had kept them all at a 3-to-1 ratio, that means if I lost 3 of them and won 1 with that same ratio, it's very likely that I would be right around the same level that I started, which is, it's very forgiving. That's my point. But if you want to get deeper into that, you obviously need to get more technical analysis training. And if that's something that interests you, you can reach out to us. But the point for this particular video is what can I learn from the past? How can I benefit still, even though I may have missed some of these jumps? And how would I go about potentially being able to create a plan that would help me get some really nice gains? Now, if you're sitting there going, I don't want to deal with only 200% because that's not good enough for you. Totally awesome. I get it. And what I would be looking for at that point would be something that's accumulating like this and for a long period of time. But that means you have to be patient. Patience pays off. And when you catch some of those, it ends up being really, really nice. All right. Hope you found this video useful. If you liked it, and if you learned anything, please go ahead and hit that like button, comment on it, let us know that you are enjoying it. And if there's something that you want us to take a look at, we'd be happy to take a look at just for entertainment purposes and see what we see and see if we correlate in our actions. All right, everybody, have an awesome day and enjoy your trading.